Commander Sarah stared at the holographic display floating above the conference table, her jaw clenched so tight it ached. The blue light cast eerie shadows across the faces of the other human military leaders gathered in the emergency session aboard the flagship Terra's Wrath. What they were seeing everything they thought they knew about galactic warfare. "Replay the final transmission from station," Admiral ordered, his weathered face grim. The hologram shifted, showing the desperate face of Colonel Martinez, commander of the 15th Expeditionary Force. Behind him, explosions lit up the command center as alien weapons tore through the station's defenses like paper. "They came out of nowhere, Admiral. 50,000 of our best soldiers gone in 6 hours. These aren't like any aliens we've encountered before. They hunt for sport. They toy with their prey. The transmission cut to static as something massive struck the station. The sensor data that followed showed the complete annihilation of humanity's most advanced military outpost in the Outer Rim. Not a single survivor, not even debris large enough to identify. "The consortium," Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne spoke from her position at the end of the table. His hands trembled as she accessed her research files. "We've been tracking reports of missing colonies across 12 different species for the past 50 years. Every incident follows the same pattern: complete disappearance. No survivors, no remains. The galactic community just accepts it as the cost of expansion." Admiral leaned forward. "You're telling me this is normal?" "More than normal," Dr. Hawthorne replied. "It's systematic. The hunt's sentient species for entertainment. They've perfected it into an art form. According to intercepted communications, they rate their hunts based on how long the prey lasts and how much terror they can generate before the final kill." Commander felt her stomach turn. She'd led troops through 3 separate alien conflicts, but this was different. This wasn't war, it was extermination for pleasure. "What do we know about their capabilities?" The hologram shifted again, showing fragmented sensor data from the attack. Sleek, predatory ships moved through space with impossible agility. Energy weapons that seemed to ignore conventional shielding. Worst of all, intercepted audio revealed the sounds of human soldiers screaming as they were hunted through the corridors of their own base. "They're technologically superior in every measurable way," admitted General, the chief of military intelligence. "Faster ships, better weapons, and they seem to enjoy a level of genetic enhancement that makes them physically superior to most known species. The garrison was our elite force, if they couldn't even slow these things down." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood the implications. Humanity had just announced its presence in the galaxy by establishing successful colonies and military outposts. They'd made contact with dozens of alien civilizations and carved out a respectable position among the stars. But now, they'd attracted the attention of something that viewed them as nothing more than entertainment. "The other species," Commander asked, "how do they deal with the—" Dr. Hawthorne's expression grew even more grim. "They don't. They accept the losses. The Galactic Council officially classifies hunting activities as unfortunate but inevitable consequences of expansion into contested space. The major powers have enough territory that they can afford to lose a few colonies every year. And they expect us to do the same." Admiral's voice carried a dangerous edge. "From their perspective, we should be grateful," Dr. Hawthorne continued. "They typically eliminate entire species when they first encounter them. The fact that they only destroyed one outpost suggests they're planning to savor humanity as a long-term entertainment source." The room fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's engines. Watched the faces around her, seeing the same mix of rage and determination she felt building in her own chest. The alien species they'd encountered so far had been eager to establish trade relationships and diplomatic ties with humanity. They'd welcomed humans as equals in the galactic community, but none of them had warned humanity about this threat. "Sir," Commander addressed Admiral directly, "what are our orders?" The Admiral stood, his decision already made. "We're going to do what humans do best, Commander. We're going to show these predators what it's like to become the prey." General activated his tablet, already pulling up strategic data. "I'll need a complete analysis of every known hunting ground, every pattern, every timeline, every method they use. And I want our best studying every scrap of data we can gather about their physiology," Admiral added. "If they want to hunt us for sport, they're going to learn why apex predators don't play games with humans." Dr. Hawthorne looked uncertain. Admiral, you need to understand the scale of what you're considering. They have been hunting sentient species for. They've refined their techniques against thousands of different civilizations. What makes you think humanity can succeed where everyone else has failed? Commander stood as well, her hand unconsciously moving to the sidearm at her hip. Doctor, every other species in this galaxy accepts that some members of their population will be murdered for entertainment. They've made peace with being prey. She looked around the room at her fellow officers, seeing the same cold determination reflected in their eyes. Humans don't work that way. We have a saying on Earth: those who hunt monsters should beware becoming monsters themselves. But sometimes, Doctor, becoming the monster is exactly what the situation requires. Admiral nodded grimly. They think they're the apex predators of this galaxy. They're about to learn that Earth produced a species that doesn't know how to be prey. Commander, I want you to select our most aggressive and experienced officers. We're not going to wait for them to hunt us again. Sir, what exactly are you proposing? General asked. We're going to teach the galaxy what happens when you murder 50,000 humans for entertainment, Admiral replied. They want to play hunting games? Fine, but they're about to discover that humans invented total warfare. They think they're predators. We'll show them what real predators look like. The holographic display shifted to show star charts marking known activity zones. Red dots indicated confirmed hunting grounds where dozens of species had lost colonies over the decades. The pattern was clear. They had established territories throughout the galaxy where they operated with impunity. Their mistake was thinking of this as entertainment, Commander observed, studying the data. For them, this is sport. For us, this just became war. Dr. Hawthorne pulled up biological data on the various species that had eliminated. Most of these civilizations tried to fight back initially. The Empire managed to destroy 3 ships before their entire species was eliminated. The Confederacy lasted almost 2 years before. They were thinking defensively, Admiral interrupted. Trying to protect their territory, their people, their way of life. That's not how humans fight when we're angry, Doctor. He turned to address the entire room. Ladies, we're not going to play defense against these creatures. We're going to hunt them down in every corner of this galaxy and show them what extinction actually looks like. The room buzzed with activity as officers began accessing their specialized databases and communication systems. Within minutes, coded messages were being transmitted across human space, calling back every ship, every soldier, every weapons specialist humanity had scattered across the stars. Commander watched the frantic activity with a sense of grim satisfaction. They had made a critical error in judgment. They'd assumed humanity would react like every other species they'd encountered, with fear, desperation, and ultimately acceptance of their fate as prey. They had no idea they'd just declared war on a species that had spent millions of years clawing its way to the top of Earth's food chain. A species that had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, eruptions, and countless other extinction events by becoming the most efficient killers their planet had ever produced. They thought they were hunters. They were about to learn the difference between hunting for sport and hunting for survival. And humanity, despite all their technological advancement and galactic diplomacy, had never forgotten how to hunt for survival. Admiral, Commander said quietly, when do we begin? 3 weeks after the emergency meeting, the hunting pack Crimson Talon prowled through the debris field that had once been the human colony of New Geneva. Pack leader flexed his razor-sharp talons in satisfaction as he reviewed the hunt statistics displayed on his biointerface. 43 human settlements eliminated in the past month. Each hunt had been more entertaining than the last as the humans grew more desperate and creative in their futile attempts to survive. These mammals show promise, Sub-Hunter or commented, his serpentine form coiled around the command center's biothrone. Their terror responses are exquisite, much more satisfying than the boring acceptance we get from most prey species. His mandibles clicked in agreement. The humans had provided excellent sport. Unlike other species that quickly learned to avoid hunting grounds, these creatures kept fighting back with primitive determination. They'd even managed to damage 2 ships before their inevitable destruction. The recordings of their final moments would be treasured in the hunting archives for generations. Alert! The ship's biointerface suddenly pulsed with warning signals. Unknown vessels approaching at high velocity. Configuration does not match any known prey species. On the main display, a formation of sleek human warships dropped out of hyperspace. Their approach was different from what they had observed before. No desperate escape attempts. No panicked communications. Just cold, calculated positioning that spoke of military precision. Fascinating, mused. They're actually attempting to engage us in direct combat. How wonderfully naive. The lead human ship broadcast on an open channel. Commander's voice filled the command center, her tone flat and emotionless. Vessel, you are responsible for the murder of 50,000 human soldiers and countless civilians. We're here to collect payment. Sub-Hunter Orr's gill slits fluttered with amusement. Payment? What could these primitives possibly offer that we would want? Instead of responding, the human ships opened fire. But their weapons weren't aimed at the vessels. Brilliant energy beams lanced out to vaporize every piece of debris in the surrounding space. Every fragment that might have once been a human building, every piece of equipment, every microscopic trace of the colony they'd spent decades building. What are they doing? Orr hissed in confusion. His amusement faded as he realized the implications. The humans were systematically destroying their own property. Every trophy they might have taken from their hunt was being reduced to constituent atoms. It was an act of pure spite that made no tactical sense. You want to hunt humans for sport? Commander's voice continued over the open channel. Fine, but you don't get to keep souvenirs. The ship's biosensors detected massive energy signatures building throughout the human formation. These weren't the desperate weapon charges of cornered prey. These were the calculated targeting solutions of predators who had found their prey. All units prepare evasive maneuvers, ordered, but he was curious rather than concerned. Human weapons had proven ineffective against bioarmor in previous encounters. This would simply be another opportunity to demonstrate their superiority before the real hunt began. The first human salvo struck the Crimson Talon with enough force to shatter a small moon. Bioarmor that had withstood centuries of combat cracked and began to dissolve. Emergency biosystems screamed warnings as critical systems failed throughout the ship. Impossible, or gasped as secondary explosions tore through their vessel. Their weapons were primitive. We tested them against captured human equipment. Commander's ship moved with predatory grace through the engagement zone, her weapons systems carving through bioarmor like it was decorative tissue. You tested our export models, she responded to Orr's transmitted confusion. The weapons we sell to our allies for trade agreements. You never encountered what we kept for ourselves. The second ship, Flesh Render, attempted to flee using their superior speed. Human missiles pursued with relentless determination, adapting their attack patterns in real time as the ship's bio-countermeasures evolved to counter them. The missiles weren't just following their target. They were learning from it, evolving their own capabilities faster than they could adapt. Watched his hunting pack disintegrate with growing horror. These weren't the panicked defensive actions of prey species. This was systematic extermination conducted with cold efficiency. The humans weren't trying to escape or negotiate. They were simply killing everything in the most effective manner possible. How, he transmitted desperately as his ship's biosystems continued failing. How are you doing this? We are the apex hunters of this galaxy. Commander's image appeared on their main display, her expression completely devoid of emotion. You made a mistake in your initial assessment. You assumed we were prey because we're new to the galaxy, but Earth didn't produce a prey species. Earth produced something that spent 4 billion years learning how to kill everything else on the planet. The Crimson Talon shuddered as another human weapons system locked onto their bioreactor core. Could feel his ship dying around him, its biofunctions shutting down one by one as human viruses infiltrated their organic technology and began rewriting its genetic code. You studied our defensive capabilities, Commander continued. You analyzed how we fought when you attacked our colonies, but you never considered what we're like when we're not defending anything, when we're not trying to protect our people or our homes or our way of life. Her smile was colder than the vacuum of space. You only saw us when we were being careful. The third ship exploded in a brilliant flash as human plasma torpedoes overwhelmed its regeneration capabilities. The expanding cloud of biomatter was immediately swept up by specialized human collector ships that appeared from hyperspace. What are you doing with our remains? Demanded. Studying you, Commander replied matter-of-factly. Learning how your technology works, understanding your biology, mapping your genetic weaknesses. She paused, checking something on her tactical display. You see, we've been monitoring your hunting activities for the past 3 weeks. We know about your reproduction cycles, your territorial behaviors, your social hierarchies. We've identified 17 major colonies and 43 hunting packs operating in this sector. The realization hit like a physical blow. You're not here for revenge, you're here for information. Revenge implies emotion, Commander corrected. This is extermination, clinical, systematic, and complete. She gestured to something off-screen, and additional human ships began appearing throughout the engagement zone. You killed 50,000 humans for entertainment. We're going to kill every in the galaxy for survival. Because as long as your species exists, you'll continue hunting sentient beings for sport. The Crimson Talon was dying. Its biosystems had been completely compromised by human cyber warfare, and its regenerative capabilities had been chemically neutralized. Could feel his own enhanced biology beginning to fail as human bioweapons targeted his genetic structure. The Council will not allow this, he gasped. The other species will unite against you. Commander's laugh was genuinely amused. The Council that classifies your hunting activities as unfortunate but inevitable. The same species that have been quietly grateful that you've been too busy hunting humans to bother with them lately. She shook her head. No, pack leader. They're going to discover that humans are much better neighbors than they ever were. The final human salvo struck the Crimson Talon at precisely the moment when its biosystems were most vulnerable. The ship didn't explode so much as simply cease to exist, its biomatter carefully collected by human ships for further analysis. Commander reviewed the tactical data from the engagement. Total human casualties, 0. Vessels destroyed, 3. Intelligence gathered, comprehensive. She activated her communication system to contact Admiral. Terra's Wrath, this is. The initial field test is complete. Human weapons systems are fully effective against biotechnology. Recommend immediate implementation of Phase 2. Admiral's voice crackled through the intercom. Confirmed, Commander. How long until we're ready for simultaneous strikes on all identified colonies? Commander checked her tactical timeline. 72 hours, sir. We'll need that long to position our fleets and ensure complete coverage. No survivors, no escapees, no warning signals. Understood. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you hunt humans for sport. Commander terminated the communication and turned to address her tactical officer. Lieutenant, prepare the sterilization protocols. We're not just going to kill we're going to erase them so completely that future civilizations will need to dig through archaeological records just to prove they ever existed. As her fleet moved toward the next hunting ground, Commander reflected on the irony of the situation. They had spent perfecting the art of hunting sentient species. They'd developed sophisticated techniques for tracking prey, sophisticated weapons for killing efficiently, and sophisticated psychological methods for maximizing terror before death. They'd been very good at being predators, but they'd never encountered a species that had spent millions of years being better predators than everything else on their planet. The hunted for entertainment. Humans hunted for survival, and when survival was at stake, humans didn't leave anything to chance. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species gathered for an emergency session. Ambassador of the Coalition adjusted his ceremonial breathing apparatus nervously, while the crystalline delegate from Sirius Prime flickered with agitated light patterns. At the center of the circular chamber, High Counselor called for order with her traditional bioluminescent display. Fellow representatives, she began, her translator converting her harmonic communications into understandable frequencies. We have received disturbing reports from multiple sectors regarding human military activities. In the past 72 hours, long-range sensors have detected the complete sterilization of 19 separate star systems. Ambassador activated his speaking platform. High Counselor, are we certain these reports are accurate? Complete sterilization implies the destruction of all biological matter across entire systems. The reports have been by 3 independent monitoring stations, High Counselor replied grimly. What's more disturbing is that all 19 systems were known hunting territories. A wave of shocked harmonics filled the chamber. The delegate, her gaseous form shifting colors rapidly, pulsed with confusion. That's impossible. They have been the dominant hunting species in this galaxy for over 50,000 years. No single species has ever successfully challenged their supremacy. Ambassador accessed his tactical database, projecting holographic displays for all to see. The timeline is what concerns me most. These sterilizations occurred simultaneously across a span of 12,000 light-years. The coordination required for such an operation suggests military capabilities we never suspected humans possessed. The chamber's main display activated, showing intercepted communications from human fleet operations. Commander's image appeared, addressing what was clearly a massive military formation. All units, confirm target acquisition. Remember, we're not just eliminating current threats. We're ensuring that future generations have never developed the capability to hunt sentient species again. The transmission showed hundreds of human warships positioned around a breeding world. The planet's bioluminescent surface patterns indicated a population of several billion in various stages of their complex life cycle. Fleet Admiral sends word, Commander continued. Zero tolerance for survivors means exactly that. We're not here to conquer territory. We're here to commit so complete that the concept of becomes nothing more than an archaeological curiosity. The assembled delegates watched in horrified fascination as human weapons systems activated. But these weren't conventional military bombardments. The humans were using some kind of biological warfare that targeted the genetic structure itself. The planet's bioluminescence began changing color, shifting from the healthy blue-green of thriving communities to the sickly yellow of genetic breakdown. "They're not just killing them," whispered the representative through her species' telepathic interface. "They're unmaking them at the cellular level." Ambassador studied the tactical data with growing unease. "High Counselor, I request permission to contact the human representative directly. This level of military action threatens the balance of power throughout the galaxy." "Permission granted. Ambassador Torres should be arriving shortly." When Ambassador Torres entered the chamber, the atmosphere changed immediately. Unlike the other species' representatives, who displayed clear signs of nervousness or agitation, Torres moved with calm confidence. Her expression was polite but utterly unyielding. "Ambassador Torres," High Counselor began, "the Council requires an explanation for human military activities in territories." Torres activated her own holographic display, showing detailed records of hunting activities over the past millennium. "High Counselor, members of the Council, humanity is conducting justified military operations against a species that has systematically murdered sentient beings for entertainment purposes." The delegate's crystalline structure resonated with confusion. "Ambassador Torres, the hunting activities are a regrettable but accepted reality of galactic expansion. All species suffer these losses." "All species except humans," Torres replied coldly. "We don't accept the premise that some members of our population should be murdered for entertainment. We also don't accept the Council's position that such activities are regrettable but inevitable." Ambassador projected statistics showing hunting patterns across multiple systems. "Ambassador, they have been eliminated from territories covering nearly a quarter of the galaxy. Your military response has been disproportionate to the initial provocation." Torres smiled, and every delegate in the chamber felt a chill that had nothing to do with environmental controls. "Ambassador, they killed 50,000 humans at station for sport. In response, we have eliminated approximately 400 million across 17 star systems. By human mathematical standards, that's a very proportionate response." 400 million, gasped the delegate. "That's approaching species extinction." "Approaching?" Torres checked her tactical data pad. "Ambassador, I believe you've been given outdated information. As of this morning, species extinction was completed." She paused, letting that information sink in across the chamber. "The final breeding colonies were sterilized 6 hours ago. Genetic analysis confirms zero survival potential for their reproductive material." The silence in the chamber was absolute. In less than a week, humanity had accomplished something that no species in galactic history had even attempted. They'd tracked down and eliminated an entire civilization that had terrorized the galaxy for. High Counselor's bioluminescent display flickered with what her species used to express extreme distress. "Ambassador Torres, the implications of your actions extend far beyond the situation. You've demonstrated military capabilities that fundamentally alter the balance of power in this galaxy." Torres nodded acknowledgement. "That's correct, High Counselor. We have also compiled comprehensive data on every species in this chamber." Her display shifted to show detailed military assessments of each council member's defense capabilities. We know the location of your colonial territories, your fleet dispositions, and your technological limitations. Ambassador's breathing apparatus cycled rapidly as he processed the implications. Are you threatening the council? Not at all, Torres replied pleasantly. We're simply ensuring that future interactions are based on accurate information rather than wishful thinking. She gestured to the holographic data. For example, we now know that the Coalition has been secretly providing navigational data to hunting packs in exchange for immunity from their activities. The accusation hit the chamber like a shock wave. Ambassador's protest died in his throat as Torres displayed intercepted communications proving the collaboration. Similarly, the collective has been purchasing hunting recordings for entertainment purposes, and the Commonwealth has been providing biotechnological enhancements to improve hunting efficiency. Each revelation was supported by irrefutable evidence that left the accused delegates speechless. Torres had just demonstrated that humanity possessed intelligence-gathering capabilities that penetrated the most secure secrets of every major galactic power. The point, Torres continued calmly, is not to threaten anyone. The point is to establish new parameters for galactic civilization. Her display showed a comprehensive proposal for restructuring law. Humanity proposes the establishment of the Sentient Protection Accords. Any species that hunts, murders, or otherwise harms sentient beings for entertainment will be subject to immediate extinction protocols. High Counselor struggled to process what she was hearing. Ambassador Torres, you're essentially demanding that the entire galaxy restructure its legal frameworks around human moral preferences. We're demanding that the galaxy choose between tolerance for murder and continued existence, Torres corrected. Our analysis indicates that several other species have been contemplating the establishment of hunting territories similar to the model. Her display highlighted species-specific military buildups and territorial expansions. We're providing alternative suggestions for how those resources might be better utilized. The delegate pulsed with desperate confusion. What gives humanity the right to dictate galactic policy? Tor's smile returned, and once again every delegate felt that inexplicable chill. Superior firepower gives us the right, Ambassador. More importantly, superior determination gives us the will. She gestured to the tactical displays still showing the sterilized territories. We have just demonstrated that when humans commit to the complete elimination of a threat, we possess the capability to follow through regardless of the scale required. Ambassador made one final attempt at diplomatic resistance. The Council will never accept human hegemony over galactic affairs. You're not being offered a choice, Torres replied matter-of-factly. You're being informed of new reality. The galaxy now contains one species that doesn't tolerate the hunting of sentient beings for sport. That same species has just proven its willingness and ability to commit complete when its moral standards are violated. She began gathering her presentation materials, clearly considering the meeting concluded. The Sentient Protection Accords will be transmitted to all member species within 24 hours. Implementation will be immediate and non-negotiable. As Torres moved toward the chamber exit, High Counselor called out desperately, "Ambassador, what if the Council refuses to ratify these accords?" Torres paused at the doorway, turning back with an expression of mild curiosity. "High Counselor, 4 days ago the hegemony controlled territory spanning 8,000 star systems and commanded military forces that had successfully dominated this galaxy for 50. She gestured toward the displays still showing sterilized worlds. "I trust the Council can draw appropriate conclusions about the consequences of refusing human proposals." The chamber remained silent long after Torres departed, each delegate contemplating the same terrifying realization. Humanity hadn't just eliminated they'd announced their arrival as the galaxy's new apex predator. And unlike who hunted for entertainment, humans apparently hunted for 6 months after the implementation of the Sentient Protection Accords. Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne stood in the observation deck of the research station's Legacy, watching human colonists establish their first settlement on what had once been a breeding world. The planet's ecosystem was recovering remarkably well from the selective bioweapons that had eliminated only genetic material, while leaving the rest of the biosphere intact. "Fascinating how quickly nature fills a vacuum," observed Doctor, the station's chief. He joined Hawthorne at the observation window, carrying a data tablet displaying ecological recovery statistics. The indigenous plant life is already beginning to colonize areas that were controlled for. Hawthorne nodded, but her attention was focused on the human settlement patterns below. It's not just nature. Human colonization follows completely different principles than anything we've seen in galactic history. She gestured toward the expanding settlement. Look at how they're integrating with existing ecosystems rather than displacing them. The settlement was indeed unusual by galactic standards. Instead of the typical pattern of clear-cutting and terraforming that most species employed, the humans were building their infrastructure to complement the planet's natural systems. Hydroponic facilities that cleaned local water sources, solar collectors that provided nesting sites for native flying creatures, residential areas designed to enhance rather than disrupt natural migration patterns. Doctor consulted his tablet. The preliminary reports from the other 17 worlds show similar patterns. Everywhere humans establish colonies, the local biodiversity actually increases. He paused, reviewing additional data. That's unprecedented in galactic colonization history. What's more interesting is the political situation, Hawthorne added. She activated a holographic display showing galactic communication traffic patterns. Council member species are requesting human mediation for territorial disputes at an unprecedented rate. 3 major wars have been prevented in the past month through human diplomatic intervention. The irony wasn't lost on either scientist. 6 months ago, the galactic community had been terrified of human military capabilities. Now those same species were voluntarily submitting their most sensitive conflicts to human arbitration. The collective actually requested human military assistance in dealing with their pirate problem, Doctor noted with amusement. Apparently, 3 human frigates accomplished more in 2 weeks than their entire fleet managed in 5 years. Their conversation was interrupted by an incoming transmission from Admiral. His image appeared in the holographic display, broadcasting from the Bridge of Terra's wrath somewhere in the outer spiral. Dr. Hawthorne, Doctor, we have a situation that requires your expertise. We've discovered something in the outer rim that changes our understanding of the extinction. Hawthorne felt a chill of concern. Admiral, our bioweapons were specifically designed to target genetic material. The extinction should have been complete. It was, confirmed. But we found evidence that they weren't the original hunters. They were just the latest iteration of a pattern that's been repeating for millions of years. The display shifted to show archaeological data from a recently discovered derelict station on the galaxy's edge. The structure was massive, clearly built by a highly advanced civilization, but it showed signs of systematic destruction that matched the human analysis of hunting patterns. The station's data banks were partially intact, continued. What we found suggests that they eliminated another hunting species approximately 60,000 years ago. Before that, there were the Orcs, who eliminated the hunting clans. The pattern goes back at least 2 million years. Doctor leaned forward, studying the archaeological evidence. You're suggesting that hunting sentient species for entertainment is an evolutionary pattern, that predator species naturally develop these behaviors. More than that, replied grimly. The evidence suggests that each hunting species eventually becomes so successful that they eliminate all potential prey except each other. At that point, they turn inward and destroy themselves through internal competition. Hawthorne felt the implications settling in her mind like ice. They weren't an aberration. They were following a pattern that's been repeating for millions of years across galactic history. Exactly, which means that somewhere in the galaxy, another species is probably beginning to develop similar behaviors. His expression grew more serious. Dr. Hawthorne, I need you to develop a predictive model. I want to identify potential hunting species before they reach the point where they become a threat to galactic civilization. The request was staggering in its scope. Was essentially asking her to analyze the evolutionary and psychological development patterns of every known species to predict which ones might develop predatory hunting behaviors. Admiral, Doctor interjected, such an analysis would require unprecedented access to the private records of every galactic civilization. Species don't typically share data about their violent tendencies with outsiders. Smile was cold and familiar. Doctor, 6 months ago humanity didn't have access to private records from galactic civilizations. Today, we have complete intelligence files on 47 different species, including their military capabilities, territorial ambitions, and psychological profiles. He gestured off-screen to something they couldn't see. The Council was so grateful for human intervention in their various conflicts that they've been remarkably cooperative in sharing information. Hawthorne understood the subtext. The galaxy's political leaders weren't sharing information out of gratitude. They were sharing it because they were terrified of what would happen if they refused. "I'll need a completely secure research facility," she said finally, "and access to historical data going back at least 10 million years from every known archaeological site." "Already prepared," confirmed. "We're constructing the facility on station's replacement. The location seems appropriate." His expression softened slightly. "Elizabeth, I want you to understand the scope of what we're attempting. We're not just trying to prevent future hunting species from emerging. We're trying to break a cycle that's been controlling galactic evolution for millions of years." Doctor pulled up stellar cartography data, highlighting regions of space that showed signs of ancient civilizations. "Admiral, what do we do if we identify a species that's showing early signs of developing hunting behaviors? Do we eliminate them preemptively?" "That's what makes this different from the situation," replied. "They had already committed to hunting sentient beings for sport. We were responding to actual atrocities." He paused, considering his words carefully. "But if we identify a species that might develop such behaviors in the future, we have the opportunity to intervene before they cross that line." Hawthorne felt a new understanding of the responsibility was placing on their research. "You want us to find ways to redirect potentially dangerous evolutionary developments before they become threats." "Exactly. Instead of waiting for species to become predators and then eliminating them, we want to help them develop alternative behaviors that satisfy the same evolutionary drives without harming sentient life." The concept was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted in galactic history. Instead of simply managing existing threats, humanity was proposing to actively guide the evolutionary development of entire civilizations. "There's another consideration," Doctor noted quietly. "What if the analysis reveals that humanity itself is showing signs of developing hunting behaviors? Our response to them was remarkably efficient. Some might argue too efficient." Was quiet for several moments before responding. "That's exactly why this research is necessary, Doctor. We need to understand our own psychological patterns as much as those of other species." His expression grew grim. "The difference is that if humanity shows signs of developing predatory hunting behaviors, we'll have the capability to recognize and correct those tendencies before they become dangerous to others." Hawthorne activated her research terminal, already beginning to outline the massive analytical framework they would need. "Admiral, this project could take decades to complete. We're talking about modeling the psychological and evolutionary development of an entire galaxy's worth of civilizations." "We have time," replied. "The immediate threat is eliminated, and our diplomatic interventions are maintaining galactic stability. But I want to ensure that future generations never face the choice we had to make with the—" As transmission ended, Hawthorne stood in contemplative silence. Outside the observation window, human colonists continued their work of building a sustainable settlement that enhanced rather than dominated the local ecosystem. Hawthorne said finally, "What if we discover that the pattern of hunting species isn't natural evolution? What if it's artificial, designed?" Doctor considered the question. "You mean what if something has been deliberately guiding galactic evolution to produce periodic hunting species? Think about it, the pattern is too regular, too consistent. Every 60 to 80,000 years, a new hunting species emerges, eliminates the previous one, and eventually destroys itself. It's almost like—" She paused, the thought crystallizing. "Like a culling mechanism." The implications were staggering. If Hawthorne was correct, then humanity hadn't just eliminated a threat to galactic civilization. They'd potentially disrupted a system that had been operating for millions of years. "Elizabeth," Doctor said quietly, "if that's true, then whoever or whatever designed this system is still out there, and they're probably not happy that humanity just broke their pattern." Hawthorne looked out at the peaceful human settlement, understanding that their research had just become far more urgent than Admiral realized. Humanity might have won the war against but they'd potentially just declared war on something much more dangerous. Something that had been 2 years after Dr. Hawthorne's disturbing revelation about galactic evolution patterns, The Deep Space Monitoring Station Prometheus Watch detected something that validated her worst fears. Chief Analyst Sarah stared at the sensor data with growing dread, double-checking the readings before transmitting her report to Admiral. "Admiral," she reported via encrypted channel, "we have confirmation of artificial structures approaching from intergalactic space. The configuration matches no known technology, but the energy signatures are consistent with technologies capable of manipulating stellar evolution." This image appeared on her holographic display, broadcasting from the new command flagship Humanity Ascendant. Behind him, the bridge buzzed with activity as humanity's most advanced military minds prepared for a threat they'd hoped would never materialize. "Chief Analyst, what's the estimated time of arrival?" Consulted her tactical computer. "Based on current velocity and trajectory, approximately 18 months until they reach the outer rim. Admiral, these structures are massive. Each one is roughly the size of a small moon, and we're detecting 47 separate contacts." 47, repeated grimly. "One for each species currently represented on the Galactic Council." The implication was clear and terrifying. Whatever was approaching had been monitoring galactic civilization for an extended period, long enough to conduct detailed reconnaissance of every major species. This wasn't a random encounter or exploratory mission. It was a planned intervention. "Sir," continued, "Dr. Hawthorne's analysis predicted this possibility. If her theories are correct, these are the architects of the hunting species pattern. They're coming to investigate why they were eliminated ahead of schedule." Nodded, his expression grim but determined. "Chief Analyst, initiate Protocol 7. I want every human ship, every colony, every military asset prepared for complete mobilization within 72 hours." Began implementing the massive coordination protocol that would unite humanity's scattered forces across the galaxy. But she paused as another thought occurred to her. "Admiral, should we inform the Galactic Council?" "Absolutely not," replied without hesitation. "The Council species have accepted being managed by these architects for millions of years. They might view our interference as a greater threat than continued manipulation." The reality of humanity's situation was stark. They'd broken a pattern that had controlled galactic evolution and now the original architects were coming to restore their design. Worse, humanity might face this threat alone, abandoned by the very species they'd tried to protect. Activated his fleet communication system, addressing the assembled commanders of humanity's military forces. "Ladies and, our worst-case scenario has become reality. The entities responsible for creating and managing hunting species throughout galactic history are approaching our space." The holographic display showed tactical assessments of the incoming structures. Each one possessed energy output capabilities that dwarfed anything in human or alien technology. More disturbing, their approach vector suggested they understood current galactic politics and military dispositions with frightening accuracy. "Sir," Commander spoke from her position aboard the destroyer Righteous Fury, "what do we know about their intentions?" Dr. Hawthorne's voice joined the conference from her research facility on New Station. "Based on the historical pattern, they're coming to evaluate whether humanity represents a suitable replacement for the—" Her tone was clinical, but everyone could hear the underlying dread. "If we prove unsuitable, they'll eliminate us and select another species to genetically modify into hunters." "And if they determine we are suitable?" asked General from his position coordinating planetary defenses. "Then they'll attempt to modify our psychological and genetic development to enhance our predatory instincts," Dr. Hawthorne replied. "They'll try to turn humanity into the galaxy's next hunting species." The silence following her statement was absolute. Every officer on the communication channel understood that both options led to the destruction of everything humanity had built and everything they represented. Reviewed the tactical data one more time before addressing his commanders. "Ladies and, we face an enemy that has successfully managed galactic evolution for millions of years. They've guided the development of countless civilizations, destroyed species that didn't fit their patterns, and maintained their control through superior technology and strategic patience." He paused, meeting the gaze of each commander through the holographic display. "They're expecting to encounter a primitive species that can be easily controlled or eliminated. Instead, they're going to discover that Earth produced something they never anticipated, a species that refuses to be managed. Commander activated her tactical displays, showing the positions of human forces throughout the galaxy. Sir, our fleet assets are distributed across 17 different star systems. Should we consolidate our forces for a concentrated defense? Negative, replied. Concentration makes us vulnerable to their superior firepower. Instead, we're going to use the tactics that won Earth's ecosystems for humanity. His smile was predatory. We're going to be everywhere at once, and we're going to make them pay for every light year they advance. Dr. Hawthorne transmitted additional data from her research. Admiral, I've completed the analysis of their likely technological capabilities based on archaeological evidence. They possess the ability to manipulate stellar processes, alter planetary atmospheres, and modify genetic structures on a massive scale. What are their limitations? General asked. They think in terms of millions of years, Dr. Hawthorne replied. Their strategies are designed for long-term manipulation of evolutionary processes. They've never encountered a species capable of rapid tactical adaptation. She paused. More importantly, they've never faced a species that views their management system as fundamentally unacceptable. Understood the strategic implications immediately. They're expecting to negotiate with us, to offer us a place in their system in exchange for cooperation. Exactly, Dr. Hawthorne confirmed. Every species they've encountered has eventually accepted their management in exchange for survival. They have no experience dealing with a species that would rather fight to extinction than accept external control. The tactical discussion was interrupted by an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. High Counselor's image appeared, her bioluminescent displays flickering with what her species used to express extreme agitation. Admiral, the Council has received communications from entities identifying themselves as the architects of galactic evolution. They demand an immediate meeting to discuss humanity's unauthorized interference with established patterns. His expression didn't change. High Counselor, humanity declines to meet with entities responsible for millions of years of systematic murder. Admiral, pressed desperately, these entities possess technology that could eliminate all life in the galaxy. Surely negotiation is preferable to extinction. High Counselor, replied coldly, humanity has spent the past 2 years preparing for this possibility. We've analyzed their technology, studied their patterns, and developed countermeasures. He gestured to the tactical displays showing human military positions. We're about to teach the architects the same lesson we taught the predators who threaten humanity learn what it means to become prey. The Council transmission ended abruptly as realized that humanity intended to fight entities that had controlled galactic evolution since before her species evolved intelligence. Commander voiced what everyone was thinking. Sir, are we certain we can win against opponents with millions of years of technological advancement? Smile was cold but confident. Commander, the architects have spent millions of years perfecting techniques for managing evolutionary development. They're experts at long-term manipulation and strategic patience. He activated the fleet-wide combat communication system. But humanity has spent millions of years perfecting techniques for survival against impossible odds. We're experts at adaptation, improvisation, and refusal to surrender. The first architect structure entered the galaxy's outer rim, its massive form eclipsing entire star systems as it approached. Human long-range sensors detected energy signatures indicating technologies that operated on principles beyond current scientific understanding. All human forces, broadcast to the galaxy-wide fleet, remember what we're fighting for. We're not just defending humanity. We're defending the right of every sentient species to control their own evolutionary destiny. He paused, watching as additional architect structures emerged from intergalactic space. The entities approaching our position believe that intelligent life exists to serve their design purposes. They view consciousness as a tool to be shaped according to their preferences. His voice hardened. They're about to discover that humanity has a different perspective on the purpose of consciousness. As the first energy signatures of advanced architect weapons began charging in the deep space between galaxies, issued his final order to human forces. Ladies and these architects have never encountered a species that evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill it. They've never faced a civilization that views extinction as preferable to submission. The holographic displays throughout human space showed the massive architect fleet approaching. their technologies capable of reshaping matter at the atomic level, and their experience spanning millions of years of galactic domination. His final words echoed across humanity's scattered forces as they prepared to face an enemy that had never known defeat. They think they're coming to manage another primitive species. Instead, they're about to learn what happens when apex predators try to domesticate apex predators. The galaxy held its breath as two completely incompatible concepts of civilization prepared to collide. On one side, the architects with their patient, methodical approach to managing galactic evolution over millions of years. On the other side, humanity with their absolute refusal to accept external control regardless of the consequences. The war for the future of consciousness itself was about to begin manipulating galactic evolution for millions of years. Something that would eventually come looking for the species that had disrupted its design. The galaxy had just learned what it meant to encounter a species that viewed moral compromise as justification for species extinction. Admiral's smile was cold and predatory. "We already have, Commander, we already have."